Today I've got a hot take for you guys. So I try to make these videos as concise as possible and just talk about one concept. And I also like to include changes that I make in my business, as I'm always looking to experiment and improve in different ways, whether it's making the customer experience better, finding ways to optimize where I get my inventory from and maybe lower my own costs, or find snags that inevitably pop up in the sales process that are a concern, or maybe something that's just on the psyche of the average individual that walks into my store. These hidden hurdles that if you can eliminate them before they come up, it's kind of like that old adage that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And I want to talk today about one of those snags that definitely crops up very commonly in our sales process. It's a very simple fix, and rather than having to explain something away when it pops up, it's better that that snag doesn't come up in the first place. So, with that being said, can you spot the difference between these two guys here? Same saddle, same seat post diameter. What's the difference? The difference is that this one is going to make me about $5,000 more in income per year, for the simple fact that it does not have this stupid suspension BS on it. So hold on. Why am I coming out the gate so negatively against the suspension seat post? I'll tell you why. I have not once had the experience during the sale of a bicycle where a customer sat on this and looked at me and said, "Hey, can I get one of these with suspension in the seat post?" That has never happened to me once in the 7 years that I've been in business. However, people sit on this one. I get a myriad of problems, complaints, and hidden hurdles that come from this fancy little doohickey that people like to think is an upgrade when really it's a massive downgrade. Why did the seat move on me when I sat on it? Is it loose? Is the tire pressure low on the bike? Is it normal for this to sag like that? I thought I had this adjusted to the proper height, but my heels are getting down low to the ground again. And finally, there's the sale killer, which is, can I bring this seat height down? The answer is yes, you can bring the seat height down if I replace that stupid suspension seat post. In my view, both as a rider and somebody who's selling bikes on a day-to-day basis, these represent only problems and no solutions. What you have here is a straight up violation of the KISS method, which is keep it simple, stupid. You've introduced something that can have a little bit of play, a little bit of squish, a little bit of all kinds of things that the customer is not expecting or looking for. And at the end of the day, one of the biggest things that allows you to sell bikes within a wide range size-wise is your ability to bring that seat height up and down. And you kill at least half of your range by adding this guy onto there. So particularly with the small, extra small, or even medium-sized bikes, you get somebody in here who's 5'5", who's trying a bunch of smalls, and their eye gets attracted to the bright red one in the corner, and it's got one of these guys on there. The frame size might be small, but effectively you're looking at a medium because you've got the seat jacked up 4 inches to accommodate this beast. Whereas with this guy, you get full maneuverability depending on their comfort level. You can have it all the way down or all the way up. I'm gonna show you guys an example with these guys on an actual bicycle. By the way, just a really quick note, if you're interested in drilling down further and figuring out how to either start or optimize your current bike business, we do have a tremendous amount of value behind our memberships. We're really proud of what we've packed in to something that we can essentially make available at a really accessible price point. It's essentially all of my hard-earned lessons over these past 10 years in business. You can check out the links below. So, here we have a run-of-the-mill hybrid, not unlike probably 75% of the bikes that we move through our store. We found over the years that essentially suspension seat post was not part of the regular checks that I would go through. Obviously, the things that I look for in terms of a bike coming in are usually like dry rotted rubber. So maybe this is tires, grips, saddles. I end up replacing a lot of drivetrain components if they're getting rusted or worn out. Pedals, brake pads, cables, housing. I look at a bike in terms of, does it have good bones? Is it a good brand? Most of the parts are pretty easy for me to purchase in bulk so that I can replace them. I never really took much care into whether or not it had a suspension seat post until I ran into the problem about 100 times in a row of somebody coming in, and let's say you're about 5'3" and you're looking for a hybrid bicycle, something for the C&O Canal or crushed gravel. And this catches your eye because you like purple. It's one of 3 or 4 in our inventory that's fitting you, or at least it says so on the tag that it would fit you based on the frame size. But when you get on it, you find that you're just barely too tippy-toed to be 100% comfortable. No matter, all you need is to bring the seat down just a hair, except what I used to not do is take note of these suspension seat posts. And let me tell you, it might sound like I'm griping about a very small thing, but when we're in the midst of a very busy Saturday, it is a huge deal for me to be yanking this out, rifling through a bunch of seat posts to find a matching diameter, of which there are 10 or 12 different seat post diameters, by the way. Getting one that's gonna fit this, and on top of that, if I'm grabbing a new seat post out of the packaging, more than likely the length is gonna be such that I'm gonna have to cut that seat post down. So something that should be as simple as pulling the quick release, adjusting the seat height, and squeezing it right back down for you has turned into about an 8-minute thing for me to rush through in the midst of having 3 or 4 families in the store and both myself and my salesperson kind of drowning in this and that. Instead, what I do now is I preemptively replace these junky seat posts with suspension with one without suspension. And this might sit on the sales floor. I can see that that seat is sitting a little bit back, so don't gripe at me on the comments, I'll fix it. But if it's sitting here like this, and you're 5'3", and you need this to be down another ½ inch to feel comfortable, boom. And that just smooths out the whole sales process. Customers don't need to feel like you are jerry-rigging the bike in order to force it to fit them. They respond much more positively to quick little adjustments where it feels more like they found a match instead of me forcing a match on them. From an outside view, this may sound very silly, but if you have experience in sales, you know that any small friction points add up. Before making this change, I would estimate we were losing about 10 to 15 sales a year to having a suspension seat post on there. And it wasn't always the height issue, although that was the main culprit. Sometimes it was as simple as somebody would sit on the bike, they'd feel it sag, and that's not something you're exactly expecting. And people might not strictly verbalize it, but if they feel that the seat post is moving, as the suspension seat posts are prone to doing, you can kind of see a little bit of play there. That's not a contact point that you really want to have moving on you. You want to have confidence and stability, especially if you're getting onto a bike for the first time in a couple of years. People often, when they're coming in, the thing that we have to kind of jump over, the hidden hurdles, is some level of trepidation that they have. Especially in a business model like my own, where most people are new to the sport or have not touched a bicycle in a couple of years. There's a lot of uncertainty. They want to have their questions answered, but they also don't want to be overwhelmed. So if I can take things out of the equation that are going to cause problems or questions in their mind, it's best for me to do that before the bike even hits the sales floor. And then that's just one last thing that's a question in their mind. And over the years, there's been many of those things. I've definitely learned, when I first opened my doors, I'd focus completely on the mechanics and the safety of the bicycle and not so much on the cleaning. We've definitely gone more gung-ho in terms of replacing parts, making sure that there's as little rust showing as possible. We are a used bike dealer, so some of our bikes are gonna have some rust on them. But basically, any of the little hidden snafus that your customers might not explicitly be complaining about, but are thinking in their mind, I've definitely noticed through trial and error, different things that I can change and improve. And not only do I make more sales, but I make less friction-filled sales, where there's less questions, less hurdles to jump over or dive around. And overall, it just makes the process easier for you and your customers. So buying these in bulk from a distributor, you can get seat posts for $10 or $12. It's generating more sales. It's not something you have to replace completely across the board, although I do find them annoying for a lot of reasons. Typically on a large or extra large bike, they're less of a concern. But with these bikes that are kind of in that short adult or pre-teen like realm, you get a lot of people in that 5 foot to 5'4" range where the suspension seat post is nothing short of a sale killer. So I just get rid of it and I've not looked back. So bash me in the comments if you love suspension seat posts. For me, as a shop owner, they have been just way more problems than solutions. If the day ever comes where somebody explicitly asks me, hey, I'd rather have suspension seat posts, I do keep a couple of them in a bin. I can always swap them out. I'm 7 years in, I'm yet to have that happen. As far as I'm concerned, I'm better off replacing them with a straight up seat post that could just not waste this 4 or 5 inches of real estate where all of the individuals between 5 foot and 5'4" are losing that opportunity to have more of my inventory be a good fit for them. Whether you're selling new bikes or used, this applies all the same. One gripe that I do have with the new bike industry is that I have noticed a lot of the entry-level hybrid bikes do come stock with seat posts like this. I'm telling you, like if you're listening, Giant, Specialized, Trek, you are killing sales for your retailers, which is killing sales for yourself. So if there's any big names out there that want to save 10 bucks or so on their manufacturing costs and increase their sales, ditch these stupid suspension seat posts. I've never had somebody walk in, look at a bike, like, oh wow, the seat has a little bit of cushion. Nobody notices this. The only thing they notice are the problems that they create.